Bill Belichick, it's a disgrace, just to put it plain and simple. This is people saying, oh, he was curt to the press. He had Tom Brady. Well, guess what? Chuck Noll had had Terry Bradshaw. Shula had Bob Greasy.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast, the global authority on coaching leadership, where coaching wisdom meets real talk. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Top Shelf Tuesday edition, in segment 1, we're going to talk about the Belichick snub, but we'll talk about it from the Odd Coaches perspective. In segment 2, NFL coaching carousel has stopped, and everybody's got a seat. We'll give our feedback to it, and in segment 3, we will preview the big game as only we can. Joining us today, Teacher of the Month, every month, Mike Connors, and of course, our academic and athletic consultant, George Ockert. Mike, I'm going to start with you, the Belichick snub. So for the first time in NFL history, a coach with 6 Super Bowl titles was eligible for the Hall of Fame and failed to reach the 40-vote threshold, despite a resume that is second to none, and it dwarfs Lombardi's resume. It dwarfs Don Shula's resume. So, Mike, when you heard that Belichick didn't get in and some alleged possible reasons why, what was your thought?
I thought it was an early April Fool's joke, in all honesty. And he just doesn't have 6 victories. He has 6 as a head coach and 2 as a defensive coordinator. So we're talking about a guy who has 8 championship rings and has been in 11 Super Bowls. This is just purely, we don't like him because he was gruff. It's all politics. Unless you are permanently banned from a sport like a Pete Rose or a Shoeless Joe Jackson, put the politics aside. If they were able to play, or if they were even suspended for something, but they're eligible for the Hall, if they deserve what the stats and what they did to be a Hall of Famer, be a Hall of Famer. Bill Belichick, it's a disgrace, just to put it plain and simple. This is people saying, oh, he was curt to the press. He had Tom Brady. Well, guess what? Chuck Noll had had Terry Bradshaw. Shula had Bob Greasy. Tom Landry had Roger Staubach. You know, Jimmy Johnson had, what's his name? Troy Aikman. I mean, all these guys had great quarterbacks. You know why? Because they're Hall of Fame coaches and they coach people up. This is just a travesty. I mean, it's an absolute joke. It's writers trying to get their name in the press. It's like that one guy who wouldn't vote for Jeter to be into the Hall just to get a little press for themselves. It's just ridiculous. It shows you that sports isn't sports anymore. It's politics. It's show business. It's just an abomination. I mean, it's like, you can't tell me that Barry Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Did he do steroids? I don't care. He hit the ball 800 times out of the ballpark and hit it 1,400 feet at a time. That's a Hall of Famer. Jose Canseco hit the longest home runs ever. Hall of Famer. Alex Rodriguez, biggest horse's ass in the universe. But you know what? Hall of Famer. So Bill Belichick, I don't care if he's curt. I don't care if he deflated balls. I don't care if he snuck video of people and you can't prove it. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The guy is arguably the best coach in any sport in history. So yes, he's a Hall of Famer. It's atrocious that he's not in.
All right. So George, even the petty of the petty, Mike King said, man, that's pretty petty. What did you think when Bill Belichick did not get the required votes to be a first ballot NFL Hall of Fame?
I love what Mike said. I'm glad he brought the Barry Bonds situation up. This, and I said this before, this is what happens when you allow guys who got cuts from JV to vote on who's the best player in the sport. What in the world makes you think, because you write about a sport, makes you think that you know best on who was the greatest and not the greatest, and you couldn't even play at that level? That's why anytime you get all these writers and stuff out here talking about they dictate somebody's legacy, this is where we have the problems. This is where the problems come in. These guys weren't good enough to start on the little league team, and you want them to come up and talk about who's the best coach or who's the best, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. It's the same thing, man. And we're going to continue to have it because we gave them that power. I mean, that power. It's ridiculous. It is it's up there. For one, I never thought I'd see a travesty bigger than Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame, but this might actually top it. If it doesn't, it's right up there.
Yeah, so let's give you the numbers, fans. 333 total wins, which is second all time. 31 playoff wins, which is first. He has more Super Bowl rings as a head coach than anyone in history. He exceeds first ballot entries like Chuck Noll and Don Shula in almost every postseason metric. There is no statistical football reason why. And as Connor said, his 1990 Super Bowl game plan, Giants versus Bills, is so iconic that it is already physically on display at the Hall of Fame. So one of the voters went public to explain the snub. And Connors, I want you to respond to this. The vote wasn't against Belichick, but a vote for others, because voters could only choose 3 out of 5 finalists in the coach, contributor, or senior pool. Belichick, to use George's terms, was cannibalized by senior sentiment. So although he's a slam dunk who can't wait, it's kind of a wait your turn culture. Connors, when you hear the reason, in addition, another critic said his record without Tom Brady is 84 and 103. But of course, the other side is his defenses beat everybody before he was a head coach. So who cares? But now that I've given you some data, something to chew on, does it make it any better?
No, it makes it worse. Because if these guys are their last time on the ballot, so you're putting them in now, why the hell didn't you put them in the first 9 times they were eligible? It makes no sense. No sense. That's a writer trying to get himself headlines, get himself in there. This is like the Olympics are coming up. You know what I love about the Olympics? Hockey. You know who won. You know, all these sports where you know who won because they were the fastest, or being a wrestling coach. Only once ever did I have a parent come to me in 30 years of coaching wrestling and say, why isn't my kid starting? And I looked them dead in the face and said, the starter pinned your kid. 20-something years of coaching football. How many times do people come to me and say, why isn't my kid the quarterback? Why isn't my kid the running back? Why isn't my kid the DN? This kid is better than your kid. Well, how? Come to practice and watch. No, there's no guesswork. There's no guesswork. My kid pinned your kid. That's why he's starting. Bill Belichick pinned everybody. Okay. He was the Cale Sanderson, undefeated. You know, he is the best of all time. To say that we wanted to put someone else in, they had 8, 9 other times. Why the hell didn't you put him in then? This is just people being spiteful, being politics. It's a joke. If someone steps up and says, oh, I did it to get L.C. Greenwood in. L.C. Greenwood's 90 years old. He's been eligible since he was 40. That's 50 years. And nothing against L.C. Greenwood. Incredible player. I hope he never smacks me in the head like he did those offensive linemen back in his day. But that being said, just because someone else is eligible doesn't mean you take it away from the greatest of all time.
All right, George, you're going to close this out. I'm not a baseball person, and I get angry that Barry Lamar Bonds, my college roommate's favorite player, is not in. And Roger Clemens, are you kidding? And you're gonna sing me some song about some sanctity when Gaylord Perry's in and he openly cheated and had Vaseline on his. I mean, stop it with that. So when I saw the Belichick thing, I'm like, man, that's a level of petty that again, as I said, even Mike King is not that petty. George, I did give you some of the rationale. Connor said it didn't make sense to him. Did I spin you to even ponder?
Hell no. Like the quote, he had Brady as quarterback. Look, you rate Ohio State #1 every year, and they play a bunch of cupcakes except for once a year. You work with what you got, and because I make it work, that should show you how good a coach I am. Brady was a 6th-round draft choice. He took a 6th-round draft choice and turned him into damn near the best quarterback that ever played. So you're telling me Brady did that on his own?
And Brady took less money to stay with Belichick.
So I don't even want to hear that. Talk to me about you took Brewski and all the rest of these dudes that were okay, they weren't household names, and you made them into legends. Shut up. That is just shut up. I don't want to hear any of the bull crap anymore.
Give me one more name. The year Brady got hurt, they didn't make the playoffs, but they won like 11 games with a guy that ended up stealing money like the next 5 years. And I cannot remember his name to save my life, but that year alone should get him in because I can't even remember the guy. And they won like 11 games, and it was down to like the last week, and they just didn't make it in.
You look at all of the quarterbacks that came in when Brady was hurt or when he first got out, whether it was the porn star Garoppolo or any of the other ones that are
Matt Castle.
There you go. That guy stole money.
And what's the other guy? The black guy, because I think he's back up
Jacoby?
Jacoby. Yeah, Jacoby. All these guys came in and they're still making money because of what they did in Belichick's system.
Yeah, but Matt Castle's the thief right there.
Oh, Matt Castle's straight thief. What do you get? I mean, how are you gonna hold any of that or use that to say, oh yeah, this is why? Shut up. The excuses are ridiculous.
Okay. All right. So fans, it's in segment 2, got us going. In segment 2, coaching carousel has finally come to a stop. We're going to get our thoughts and opinions on that. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Today's student athletes face pro-level challenges without pro-level support. The CKA SAVE project is here to change that. For 16 plus years, Dr. Keith Adams and his team have provided comprehensive academic and athletic support from middle school through post-graduation transitions. NIL guidance, transfer portal navigation, academic coaching, career planning, they've got it covered. The CKA SAVE project. When your future is on the line, experience matters. Learn more at www.ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I love the resets during the commercial break. In segment 2, the 2026 coaching carousel has come to a stop. It's been a whirlwind January, folks. We had 10 vacancies, the most in 4 years, and a massive shift in the leadership standpoint from a lot of these teams. A lot of our favorite coaches have moved on to either greener pastures or retirement. George, as you look at everything that went on this offseason, is there any hire or two that either caught your attention for something positive or on the other side? What are you thinking?
I got a couple comments on a couple. I really like the Baltimore hire. I think that's going to be. I think people are underrating it. I think that's going to be okay. That team needed a fresh voice and a new outlook on it. I got question marks about Pittsburgh. Yeah, McCarthy. Yeah, I don't know because really I think he got saved a whole lot in Green Bay by having A-Rod playing at his optimal, and in Dallas. He had great teams there. Let's see what he can do with minimal talent because you got to be able to coach that up. Tennessee, I thought didn't this experiment fail in New York? But then again, you got the Giants. I don't have high hopes in there. And then the big question mark for me, I'm sorry, Connor, but this Harbaugh experiment in New York, I'm shaky with it because the big question is, has the game passed him by? And that's what because we went from always counting on the Ravens defense, and that was their staple. So that's what has let them down in the past 2 seasons to keep them from getting into the playoffs. And I don't know where he is head-wise, headspace-wise. It could be the best thing to help him out, put a little structure there. Because, the Giants have been like just one step ahead of the Jets for the past couple of years. And that's not saying much. And they got a few pieces. But we're going to see what happens. But I can't say I'm as gung-ho about the Harbaugh signing in New York as everybody else is.
All right, Connors, it's up to you right now. Out of all of the hires, anything catch your eye?
Well, of course, being a Giants fan, the Harbaugh hire, I find very interesting. I think the biggest thing is going to be who he brings in as an offensive coordinator. There was talk of Monken coming in with him, but Monken got the Cleveland head coaching job. That I'd like to point out, 4 other people withdrew their names after a second interview to take the mistake on the Lake job. So I was kind of surprised that Monken took it, but then I heard that he coached there in the past as an assistant. So maybe he thinks he can take it on and do a good job. The Ravens defense, Harbaugh's an offensive minded coach. I know as a head coach, you have to be kind of two-sided on that, but I think a lot of it has to do is who they bring in as the coordinators. I know that they're talking about bringing in Cliff Kingsbury for an interview for the offensive coordinator job. I'd love that because of how good a quarterback guru he is. I know that there's a lot of talk that he's a me guy, not a team guy. But if Harbaugh is going to bring him in, I have to say that he would probably have to be drinking the Kool-Aid to do that. I was very surprised at the Pittsburgh hiring of Mike McCarthy. I didn't like McCarthy in Green Bay, but I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that there's any question about that. I think he's very overrated. The only one who doesn't overrate him is him. He's the greatest quarterback in the world. Just ask him, he'll tell you. I don't think McCarthy did great things in Dallas with very good teams. So that was kind of surprising to me because Pittsburgh goes for those young coaches that have huge upside. I mean, in their history, they've had 3 coaches in the last 50 or 60 years, and I'm not exaggerating that. So, I mean, that's a huge diversion of hiring a 62-year-old who, let's be honest, if he lasts 10 years, that's a long time for a head coach. And at 62 to last to 72 is even harder. So that's going to be very interesting, and especially because they have no quarterback. Now, maybe he is a quarterback guru. Maybe Rodgers is who he is because of McCarthy. I don't know. But that was very surprising to me. There's a couple others out there. I was surprised that the Bills moved their offensive coordinator up. I'm not saying he's not going to do a great job, but that just was surprising to me that they wouldn't bring in a fresh head coach. But then again, maybe this kid is an offensive guru and the former head coach was stifling him. So I'm not sure. Atlanta, I think, made a good hire in Stefanski. I mean, he was 2-time coach of the year in Cleveland. Now, did he turn Cleveland into a powerhouse? No. But in 6 years, he took them to the playoffs twice. If in the last 6 years, my team went to the playoffs twice, I'd be ecstatic. But we haven't done that. We only went once. So, and some of the other teams, let's be honest, it doesn't really matter. Arizona Cardinals, Mike LaFleur, who cares? The Dolphins, they have a lot of work to do. I don't even know who Jeff Hafley is. And Robert Saleh, I think he's going to be like a Norv Turner, great coordinator, but not good head coach. I always liked him, even when he was with the Jets. He never said anything in the press like to make his team the villain. He always dove on the sword for the team. He did incredible things the last couple of years in San Francisco as a defensive coordinator. So maybe it's just that it was the Jets. The former coach in Tennessee did a pretty good job. Now he's with the Patriots. So they're not a horrible organization. Maybe they just need the right leader. So it's most of the hires I found very interesting.
Like Keith, a lot of this has to be, and a lot of this had dictated by the ownership, because we got some capable coaches. But if the ownership sucks, and we see that in New York with the Jets on a constant basis. Now, one thing, Connors, I want to bring you back with this one with the hire in Buffalo. Me personally, I think that they gave Allen too much say in what happened. I think that ship is going. They're riding with him, and and what he says and what he wants, and neglecting that defense and other things that they need out there.
Oh, yeah, they definitely needed a lot of tools. They did not have good receivers. They didn't have a true number one. They had a couple of 4s and a 3. They didn't have a tight end. That was a big thing. Their line was decent preseason. Then they had some injuries. So that I can't throw stones at that. But they definitely had some offensive holes at receiver and tight end. And their running back was decent, serviceable. He was not a star. But there aren't many star running backs in the league except for McCaffrey and a handful of others. In what's his name, Henry in Baltimore and a few others. But if they were giving Allen too much say in the offense, Why hire the offensive coordinator? Was it the head coach that gave it to him? I don't know, George. That's what I'm throwing some thoughts out.
Yeah, I'm saying that they gave him too much say in who they were going to hire.
Okay. That I get. I thought you had like play calling before.
No. That they didn't want to piss him off because he had a running back because Cook was top leading rusher in the NFL this year, I do believe, or he was right up there. But giving him too much say in what happens on a day-to-day with that organization. And I think that's where they went wrong. Because let's be honest, for all the hype and stuff Allen gets none of the virile attack when he has done nothing. What has he done more than Lamar or anybody?
If Lamar was crying in the locker room after the playoff game, he would have been crucified.
Right.
He would have been absolutely crucified in the press. But everyone's, Allen cares so much. Look at how upset he is. And the owner even said it. That's what was the final nail in the coffin for the coach, was Allen crying. Really?
Yeah, he's the biggest prima donna in the league. And we hype him up to be that, and or they do, because I think he can't win the big one. So
that makes me question the GM even more, because they had lots of holes in the lineup. I know it's a married couple that owns the team. I don't know much about them. They've only owned the team for about 8 years, if I remember, 8 to 10 years, if I remember correctly. Because I knew someone who was trying to buy them at the time, a friend of mine in an organization, the Guggenheim Group. But it's just makes me question that GM then, if he's given Allen that much credit and that much authority, and he's not filling the roster with what Allen needs. So maybe that's his way of appeasing Allen.
Well, the biggest thing with me with the Bills hire, and I did want to address a little bit about the Bills hire, is historically speaking, whoever the in-house hire is tends to last about 3 years at the most, and then they move on. So that wasn't a very deep-rooted, thoughted question, because, again, most of the time when you make that internal hire, it just doesn't work out the way you want it to, but I'll let them live that. But I do want to talk a little bit about the NFL has a problem that, as we talk about on other shows like the NCAA, they don't want to solve. Hire who you want. But when you look at who got jobs, it's really hard to get into the club when you got a 60-year head start. When you look at the Kubiak kid and his resume compared to other coaches historically who had better resumes and couldn't get an interview. Eric Bieniemy won 3 or 4 Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, and they said he was mean. And he could. Now, again, whether you liked him or not, the resume was similar, and the LaFleurs get gigs. It's just, wow, it's really hard to get in the club. But once you're in the club, as Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has found, it's hard to stay in the club too. So, go.
Pete, it's and because you even said that, the way it even started, it's just a known fact, and it's like I didn't even go there, because it's just like, okay, it's a regular thought process. This is not even a glass ceiling. This is a lead closed door, and they only let you in. And if you get in, if the slightest little thing happens, they're going to blow it up, and they're going to make it into a whole situation.
And George, I'm not going to go on a diatribe too bad with this, because Connor's going to pull me back as I want him to. But the league is now offensive based. And now coaches like Brian Flores, who's a defensive coach, and Vance Joseph, who's a defensive coach, are still waiting.
Saleh.
But wait, the coach in the Super Bowl right now, the defense coach. So, man, you just it's moving the goalpost, and it's just like right in front. So this week we're going to hear Roger Dale. He's going to get on camera. We're taping Sunday, folks, and I can kind of anticipate what he's going to say. It's important to the league. We're working on it. We're looking at some different things. And it is something that's very important. And we want to provide opportunities. Yeah. And paint the end zone green. And
what happens? I'll just ask you, what happened to the Rooney Rule?
It's still in effect, but it's a joke. Let's be honest. I remember when Tony Elliott was the offensive coordinator for Clemson. He got a call from the Carolina Panthers to come and interview, and he declined. He goes, "I know you're only asking me because I'm within driving distance and I'm black." Right. So it was a joke. And now he's the head coach of Virginia and is proving himself to be a very good coach. But he was like a first-year offensive coordinator, and Carolina called me. He's like, "What is this? It doesn't. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But
and Connors called the missteps in Minnesota when they picked J.J. McCarthy, among other picks. So maybe he should have been fired. Maybe he should not have been. But the move comes 4 weeks after the regular season ended, and Adofo-Mensah had already held his end-of-year press conference and was actively scouting at the Senior Bowl. So you can question his performance, and you can even question JJ's performance. But the kid won like 4 out of his last 5 games or something, and they're trending up or what have you. So, again, pick who you want, do what you want, but how you guys have done business is like really pausing me. Mike, any thoughts about that before we let George close the segment?
Yeah, no, the only I could think of with Adolfo is maybe the ownership sat down and said, "What's your vision for the draft?" And they just didn't like it because, as we said in our pre-discussions, he's a very analytics-driven guy. He's not a player guy. So maybe that turned them off. I don't know. It was odd timing, but that's the only thing I could think of when they fired him was, okay, maybe he had his blueprint for how he wants to run the offseason. And, after letting, Sam Darnold go, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. And, maybe they just didn't think that he has the credentials to keep the job anymore, or he has proved that he's not capable. It's one of those things of, it's not like they fired him the day this season was over. So maybe they wanted to keep him. And then they just sat down and said, "You know what? He just doesn't have it." Just like he said last year, Sam Darnold just doesn't have it, but he won 14 games again, and he's going to the Super Bowl.
George, any final thoughts before we wrap up this segment?
Personally, I was waiting for the assistant to come out and say there was a relationship. I was looking for the blonde head assistant or something to come out and say there was a relationship or something. That's what I was looking for, because why didn't you fire this man earlier? Why didn't you fire this man when the season ended? Because I'm still wondering why you waited this late, let him get down and start looking at who you're gonna draft, and before you fire him. He shouldn't even been part of that process if your thought process was to get rid of. So, hey.
All right. Well,
I got a name to throw out real quick to you guys. Why isn't Byron Leftwich getting more love in the NFL as a head coaching candidate?
Because his last name ain't Kubiak or LaFleur, or his grandfather wasn't a Sullivan. Because, again, credential-wise, he had, all jokes aside, he had very similar credentials to Kubiak does now, and actually they were better. But he couldn't. You can't get in the club. It's very similar. Mike and George and I work in the same district at one time. It's very hard for people not in the circle to get the higher level positions because they're not going to be put in a position to be successful. And if they do get it, they're going to get the crappiest schools or the crappiest teams, and they're going to have the shortest leash and say, "Well, see, you couldn't do it." Like, what are you doing? Nobody wins here.
He's just a guy that I keep waiting to hear is getting his chance, and it just blows my mind that an offensive mind like that can't get it.
And he did a great job in Tampa. He did a great job in Pittsburgh.
He did a good job in Colorado University this year.
Yep.
That's what I mean. And he seems like, I know a lot of people say that Eric Bieniemy's hard to work with and he can be very difficult as players. I've never heard a bad word about Byron Leftwich from anybody. Yeah, right. So I don't get it, man.
All right. So, fans, in segment 3, we're going to give you your full preview of the big game because we don't have the super rights to say the thing that goes with bowl. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CKA Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, we are here. It has been, I have to get this out of the way, it's been 11 years since Malcolm Butler's goal line interception that changed the course of NFL history. The Patriots and Seahawks are back. Why didn't he just give that boy the beast mode? Get the ball to beast. Anyway, okay. Hey, so Sam Darnold. I've had a chance, and shout out to the University of Washington contingents that I hung out with at the NCAA convention. They're positive that Sam Darnold is going to get the job done. After being written off at 4 different spots, Sam Darnold was playing the best football of his life. You got Drake Maye. We told you on the show, I've got friends in North Carolina that spoke extremely highly of this young man. So you've got 2 quarterbacks who not overly paid. Sam Darnold's getting something, and Drake Maye's under that first contract. You also have the Seattle defense led by Mike McDonald, who finished 7th in sacks this year. Again, a defensive guy's in the Super Bowl, but let's go offense with the hiring. You got a lot of things going on. Mike Vrabel, a defensive guy, was in the Super Bowl, but let's keep hiring these offensive guys. He's there with a chance to win at the team he played for. George, give me your thoughts on the Super Bowl, sir. What do you think?
Like I said before, I guess it's going to be, New England's offense, and I thought I had saw good things for them last year because I thought they started coming on at the end of last year. How they got rid of their coach. I'm gonna leave that alone. That was the Golden State effect right there. But anyway, they started coming on at the end of last year, and I saw them coming. But here in the playoffs, as things have gotten tighter, their offense has gotten tighter. I think in last game the weather was a whole situation, but offensively they were not. They didn't do anything to scare me, excite me, or anything at that point in time. I'm looking at I'm looking defensive wise. I'm looking at Seattle's defense against them. I'm trying to figure out how New England plans to score against them. That's number one, and number two, I like Sam Darnold on the offense. He got some guys on that offense that can make things happen. And the offense is set up and predicated to where he can get the ball to them in space, and they do a lot of good things. So we're going to see. We're going to see. My big question is how New England schemes things to stop that Seattle offense. That's the biggest one, because I don't see their offense, New England's offense, doing much.
All right. Connors, what do you think before I throw out something to the panel and see if you smack me in the back of the net?
I mean, it's going to be the basic formula of who controls the ball and who doesn't turn the ball over. Now, Darnold had a lot of turnovers during the regular season. I believe he had 14 interceptions. I'm not positive if that's the right number or not, but he's had 0 in the postseason. Drake Maye is a good, controlled quarterback. He doesn't fling the ball around. He's not a gunslinger. He controls the ball. He's cerebral. He makes good reads. Both defenses are excellent. It's going to come down to who makes a mistake, and I know that's cheesy to say, but these are 2 very good teams. I mean, it's a Super Bowl. We know that, but this isn't a team that came in like the Giants a couple years ago who were 9-7 and just got hot at the right time. These were 2 of the better teams all year, 2 wonderful quarterbacks. I mean, Sam Darnold's a great story. having jumped around and being thrown to the side after being a high pick by the Jets. Drake Maye, not out of a great football University of North Carolina, but came out highly touted. Never heard anyone say a bad word about the kid's character or his play. So this is going to be a big game. I'm thinking there's going to be a 400-yard passer. I mean, the receivers for Seattle are very, very strong. You got Smith and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Najigba, excuse me. Sorry about that. But I mean, he's an incredible receiver who could go for 200 yards very easily. But it's going to be, Cooper Kupp is a former NFL or Super Bowl MVP. So, I mean, he's a great person coming out of there. It's going to be a very, very good game. I mean, two good coaches, and it's going to come down to the one mistake.
So here's where you guys will tell me I'm crazy or you might have something. The New England Patriots played a fifth-place schedule. Ain't played nobody all year. The AFC East was trash. And then in the postseason, bless their hearts, they ran into a team playing their backup quarterback. C.J. Stroud wasn't very good because they should have lost that game. I'm going to leave the Chargers piece alone. So without any breakdown, any analyzing, anything, I'm just a coach. And I'm like, you ain't done nothing. You haven't done anything to impress me other than show up on time. Where Seattle had 3 Flair Steamboat matches with the 49ers. And those are battles. That NFC West all year was just really, really good football. So they played at a high level the entire year, where it happens every year, guys. The fifth-place team down the street, got a fifth-place schedule, made it to the championship game. Am I crazy? Am I wrong with that, George? You've been telling me since 8th grade when I'm wrong. Do I have something here, or Keith, you're flat wrong on that?
I don't really, let's get it straight. I think the NFC West, and I probably said it on one of our shows, was probably the best division in the NFL.
Well, like 8 weeks in a row, George, you said the surprising thing was Seattle. The surprising thing was Seattle.
Seattle, you had 49ers and you had the Rams, who were all of them were in the playoffs. All of them were legit. It was the Rams. They played 3. This is the 49ers. Following, smiling somewhere. The thing that holds me is with, and this is where I think that it where your argument or whoever was going to say it doesn't hold weight, is when New England had to step up and play that upper tier of the AFC. They did it and came out smelling like roses. They beat the pants off the Bengals. I mean, off of the Bills, off Buffalo. You think of any of the other top teams they had to play, Buffalo won most of those games. So they know how to play. Now, the big thing comes in with the consistency of doing it is, on a regular day, but they only got one game. It isn't like they got to see them 2 times a year. They only got 1 game right now. So you come out hot that day, it is what it is. Sometimes that holds merit, sometimes it doesn't. But in this case, I'm looking at it holds no merit. I just my concern has been New England's offense, because they haven't been able to generate much of it. It's been a lucky pass here, or Diggs makes a spectacular catch there or something, and then the other piece is Drake likes to go and Drake Maye he is very controlled. He will take that chance downfield every once in a while, and that'll be that one time, and he does it in every game. And that'll be the one time we're talking about mistakes. That'll be that one mistake when he gets intercepted. That'll be the one thing I'm worried about.
Connors, am I crazy? And again, they had a trilogy with the Rams, not the 49ers. That's my fault. No. But am I crazy? Because that's kind of how I'm looking at it. It's like, how'd you get here? I saw how Seattle got here and who you beat. And I saw you beat a backup with a bad coach, make a bad decision.
You know how they got here? They won 17 games over the course of the season. Now you can only play who they put in front of you. That's like in college. They say, "Oh, you played."
Georgia tell you Notre Dame didn't play anybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the schedules may be foreign. They can't control that the NFC or the AFC East sucks. They can only control New England. So they go out and they win the games. That's all they do. They're not flashy. They win. They beat who's put in front of them. Now, if I was putting money on the game, would I pick Seattle? Absolutely. I think they have a better team. I think they have a better defense. I think the quarterback is playing better right now. Now, in 2 or 3 years, that could be very different. But New England followed the formula of we don't get outside of ourselves. We're boring. But as you've said a million times, Keith, what does boring do?
Boring wins more than it loses.
Boring wins more than it loses. And as George said, the quarterback will take a shot once or twice down the field. But other than that, it's pretty controlled. He's not a gunslinger. He doesn't try to force things. That's how they get there. They play within their system. They have a very smart head coach. They have a very young team, and they're going out and they're executing their game plan. Now, I think what George said earlier is very valid. Will they put up enough points to contend in this game? I can't answer that, but that's a concern. But they've been doing it quite often. I mean, some of their games are very low scoring, but they still come out on top, and 17 wins over the course of a season and postseason is pretty damn impressive. No matter who you play. It is the NFL. We're not talking about the Pac-12. You know, a Pac-12 team gets into this tournament, and then they lose to the 5th place team in the SEC because, you know, the Pac-12 doesn't play defense and everyone else does. You know, oh, they averaged 74 points a game. Yeah, but they gave up 72 a game. So, I mean, this is very different.
All right, so we're at prediction time. We don't do scores. We're going to leave everybody alone. George, call a win. Who we have? Do you have New England or Seattle?
All right, so I'm putting money on both of them. I'm betting.
I didn't even go strictly for entertainment purposes only. I gave everybody an out.
The payout on both of them is just too good. So I'll probably put money on both teams. But if I got to pick one, if you go hold me to it, I know I've liked New England all year, but that Seattle defense is going to get them by. And the offense puts up too much.
I'm not messing with strictly for entertainment purposes only things with this game. Too many things to bet on, and prop bets have gotten a lot of people in trouble this year. Connors, who you got?
I got Seattle, and then Netflix next year puts out the Sam Darnold story, the miniseries where he goes from New York to Seattle winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and as I said, I tip my cap and tip my hand. I've got Seattle winning, but I got Seattle winning in a rout because we tape at 9:30 p.m. next week, and I'm trying to get this taping done because I got to go to work the next day. So, on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, the global authority on coaching leadership where coaching wisdom meets real talk. Also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. You can follow us on the X platform at Odd Coaches, and we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on the X platform at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Keith Adams and the CKA Save Project on social media at CKA Save Project. For more information about the CKA Save Project, visit them on the web at www.cksaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.